Hi, so today I'm going to teach you how to edit together some simple sequences in Adobe Premiere Pro. I'm using CS6, but pretty much most of these techniques remain consistent across the different forms of this software, and everything sort of remains the same pretty much. So I'm going to create a new project, and what you'll get is a little window asking you to display certain things. Don't worry about most of it, but the most important thing is the capture bit, and you want to make that HDV, which stands for high definition video, and you want to call your project something, so something appropriate. I imagine like film promo sounds like a good idea, so I'm going to call it that. And then you're going to get another window kind of asking you to choose something called a codec, which is a way of compressing video, and we are going to use AVC HD, and that's mainly because it is the most common form of encoding from most video cameras. And we are going to use True HD, which is 1080, and we're going to use P, which stands for progressive, and 25 frames a second because we work in Europe, and Europe is 25 frames a second. And we'll say OK. And then what it will do is it will create us a project eventually. And what we'll have is it will create a bunch of windows. And I'm going to turn my windows into CS 5.5. And so it looks like pretty much what you guys will have. So what I have here at the moment is sequence 1, which is down here, and I am going to show you how to bring in some of the video, because what we want to do is edit it together. So go to import, and then I've got some video hanging around somewhere, which is on my desktop, and I'm going to drag and bring these two in. I'm using a Mac, but it doesn't really make too much of a difference if you use a Mac or a PC. It's the same software, it does the same things. I'm also going to bring in some music, so let's bring in, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the folder, and if I import the folder, it will create a folder for me, and in there I've got all of the pieces of music. If I want to create my own folder, I can say new bin, and I can call that video, and then I can take my 2 bits of video and I can drop them in there. And so now I'm kind of pretty organized. I've got a sequence which is here, which has got nothing in it, as you can see. If I move this time slider along, you can see that I've got nothing in it, and I've got some video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and do my first edit. So I'm going to go to Back to the Future, and I'll bring that in, and I'll drop that into video 1. You can drop it into any channel you want, but I'll bring it into 1. And I'll keep my existing settings, and then as I scrub through it, the audio will bounce up and down here, and you'll see the video. So I'll pick a nice sequence. That looks like a nice bit. Doors opening when the car comes out at the start of this scene. So if I want to kind of start the video there, then there's a number of ways I can do it. The first way is I can grab the end of the footage and I can drag it along. And that's a easy enough way of doing it. If I wanted to stop it at the end of that sequence, another way I could do it is by using this, which is called the razor tool, and I could chop it, and then grab here, take this and just press delete and get rid of it. So now what I've got this nice sequence, which is great. And then if I wanted to bring in another bit, I can drop it into 2, and I'm going to pick that picture of the dog doing that little kind of like, huh? Which he's not, they just got lucky with the shot, I think. I'm going to chop that as well, and so I'm going to grab here, chop it, move along, come to the end. These little ones here will go frame by frame. That's my last frame, and I'm going to chop it. So now I've got 3 bits of video, which is the same one, but they're in 3 different sections. I'll get rid of that, get rid of that, and now if I zoom in here, I've got a bit of a slider, but on your version you'll have this little thing where you will zoom in and out, and I'll move that along. So now what I've got, in very simple terms, there's an edit that does that. And the dog does that. And so that's my edit. And then if I wanted to bring another bit of Apollo 13, I'll bring that in on another layer. And I'm going to pick a nice piece of footage from that. Let me think. Yeah, there's a nice bit. I'm going to pick him pressing a button. Looks good. Kevin Bacon pressing the button, and that could be a good way of bringing in my sequence. It's a clever edit. He presses button, and then hey, I've got an idea. So what I could do is delete that, take this piece of footage and bring it to the front, and then what happens is if I drag over all of this lot and then move it in, then he presses the button, click, door opens. Hey, that's clever. So that's brilliant. And now what I want to do is I want to bring in some music. So if I double click on the music, it will bring them into this window here, and then I can play them. Not for me. And play that. No. And try that one. Bit of a summer feeling. And then this one. Okay, that feels like proper cliched kind of movie thing. It's going to be an easy one to edit to. So I'm going to drop that in. I'm going to drop it right at the bottom, and so it creates another track. And let's play that. Okay, so so the next thing that I've got a problem with is that I don't want the audio on that Back to the Future clip. I want just this audio. And see this little spiky line here? This is called a waveform, and this sort of is a visual representation of what my audio is doing. And on this one, the audio is on this one. You press this little arrow and you can see what that audio is doing. So this audio is quite loud as well, and so what it's doing is it's interfering with this audio, and I don't want it to do that. So how can I deal with that? The first way is I can go up to here, and where it's got an audio mixer, I can take all of the audio in audio 1, which is this channel here, as it says, and I can drop it down to 0. So now, when I play this, it's silent. And that's great, but the problem is that it will affect everything in that channel, which is great, but it could end up creating some problems. The other way I could do it is I could take this and I could right click on it, and then I could unlink it. So now I can take this, I can delete it. So now this hasn't got any audio at all, and whatever I do to this won't make any difference. But the problem with that is that it's sort of deleted it permanently, which is a bit annoying, and I might want to change that later on. The other thing I can do is this little line here, this little yellow line, which is in all of these bits of footage. This affects what this label says it does, which is the volume level. So I drop it down, it will be silent. As you can see here, there would be some bars. So if I bring it to the start here and play, and then move this yellow line up, you can see that it increases in volume. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that yellow line down to nothing. So now it's got an empty, it's like a silent track. So, and that's great. So what are the other things that I would like to do? Well, the other thing I would like to do is I would like to cross dissolve into these. So like go from one shot to another in a very smooth way. So the way to do that is to take this track, drop it exactly on the same line, go to Effects and Video Transitions and Dissolve and Cross Dissolve, and just drop it right in the middle. And now what will happen is when I play this, I'm going to get that. And the problem is that it's getting the end of the next shot because it's dissolving and using the rest of the shot to do that. So that's a bit annoying. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to find a little bit extra from that previous shot and add it on. So now when I cross dissolve it, I'm going to have to find even more. Because yeah, the problem is that at the start of this shot there is Michael J. Fox. So when I put it in between, it should work now. There we go, and I'm going to get rid of that audio. So now, oh no, I've done the video, and I'll just drop that to nothing. So now when I play it, I should get that little dinging. So there we go, that's all good. So that's how to do a dissolve. And so something like this, if I wanted to dissolve this shot up from nothing, I'll just drop that onto the front of it. And now what will happen is, which is good. And then the next thing I would like to do is, when I was talking about the waveforms, this little visual representation. So when Kevin Bacon presses the button, I want the music to kick in. So I'm just going to drag that along. Let's move it along a little bit more. So now, what should happen is that when there we go. So now with the music, presses the button, opens the door, and then I can start editing my thing. So this all kind of works. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this shot and I'm going to extend it out. And that's going to be the end of it. And then what I want to do is I want to put some titles on. So titles are created by saying, you go to Clip, or you go to File, New, Title. And I'm going to create a title and I'm going to call it Coming Soon. I'm going to go OK. And then it will create me a little graphic window, and wherever my slider goes on here, which would be what the background preview will be in this. So I'm going to write a little title, and I'm going to go Coming Soon. Did I even write that? I did not. And so so it creates a font, and you can grab these, you can make it bigger, and you can move it around and all that kind of stuff. You can use these things to center it, and it's in a font called Abadi, but I can use whatever I want. So I'll go for American Typewriter, and I'll make it nice and bold, and that's going to be my font. I'll just center it again, and then you can change all of these kind of things and the color and whatnot. And you've also got all of these presets, which are pretty nasty. You can use them if you want, but they don't look great. So use them with care. So I'm just going to use a standard font. And Coming Soon is going to be my sort of intro. And then once I'm happy with that, I just shut the window. And what it does is it creates like a little file here, and then I can take that and I can drop it on here. So now it says Coming Soon. So what I'm going to do is I want to put it on this bit, not the opening bit, and then I'm going to use my dissolves, and I'm going to just dissolve it up. I'm going to drop and then coming soon, and then I'll put another dissolve on here. I'll make this whole thing a little bit shorter. Coming soon. And then I can take this, I can right click, and then I can duplicate it, and then I'm going to call this only on film 4 and rename that because it's always good to label your footage, because it's really helpful, and you will just forget otherwise, and you forget what everything's called. And then I'm going to put a cross dissolve on that and a cross dissolve on the end, and then what I've got is a nice little thing. I press only on film 4. So this has not been centered, but I can still play around with that and get it centered, and it will affect my footage. So now when I go to the start, what I have and then what I would do is I would use that next like big part of the musical score to bring in another kind of like quite epic clip or something. And that's essentially how you edit in Premiere. It's pretty simple. I mean, as I said before, it is the same on Premiere 5.5 as it is in CS6, so you shouldn't have any major difficulties in replicating what I'm doing here. The only other thing that I should mention is that if you want to fade audio, so say I wanted to fade this particular thing down, then the way to do that is to create keyframes. And the way that you do that is you press Control, and you get a little X. You see it on the mouse. And what that means is it will add a little keyframe. And this is a little point in animation that you can change. And then you can add a second. And then these you can drag. And so rather than this line being constant, you can change how high or low the music goes, so then it fades away. And you can do the same thing to video. And that's probably about the last thing I should mention. And then the final thing is to export it. It will ask you if you want to finish it, and you will export media. And here it will give you all of the options, whether you want it to be an MPEG or an MP4. I'm going to go for an MP4. In fact, I will not. I will go for a QuickTime. I will make it 1080 25 H.264. It'll produce it in I. It doesn't matter because it's already in P. And then it's got audio, which is AAC. H.264 is the standard Blu-ray compression setting, and then I'll export. And that, in a very quick tutorial, is the basics of video editing in Premiere.